The SM57 is a classic mic. We all know it, we all love it. It's been used on countless records for virtually anything, and everyone who works with audio owns or at least has used an SM57 in their career at some point. But lately, in the past years, there have been a lot of competition and a lot of other brands trying to create an alternative for this very popular mic. And today we're gonna test one of these. Hi everyone, this is Garan and welcome back to my channel. So as I said, today we're gonna check out an alternative to this very popular mic that is the SM57. But the one we're gonna check out today is the Electronics V7X, which is this mic right here. I recently purchased it just to try it out. I have heard good things about it. It is a very good alternative, but it's also very different to the SM57. So, as you may know, the SM57 main applications are for snare and for guitar amps, especially in the metal world. So I made a little comparison between my SM57 and the V7X by SE Electronics. So first of all, a little bit of specs, briefly. It's of course a dynamic mic, but it is a super cardioid mic, whereas the SM57 is just cardioid, which basically means that the pickup pattern is a little bit tighter and has a little bit of a tail in the back. So another physical characteristic that is different from the SM57 is that it has this metal grille like an SM58 would have, for instance. But other than that, it's a normal dynamic mic. So as I said, I tried that on guitars and on snare. For the guitars, I just placed the mics on my cab, the Brunetti right there, which is loaded with vintage 30s. And I tried to put the mics as much as in the same position as possible. The cab was powered with my Palmer power amp, which I use for my camper. But instead of using the camper, I used the plugin, and I just played a couple of DIs through the cab with both mics. So the performance is exactly the same. The only difference is the mic, and hopefully not the mic position. So the guitars are double tracked, hard left and hard right, and I'm gonna play them first by their own, and then in the context of a little mix. Let's check it out. So as you can hear, they are very different. The 57 is of course very focused on the mids and not a lot of low end and just a little bit of a harsh sound on its own, especially on guitar cabs, which is great for certain application but can be a little bit too much in some cases. While the V7X, it's quite the opposite. It has a lot of low end. The high end is very smooth, not very biting, and I think the most difference is actually in the mids, particularly in the high mids, like in the 2 to 5k area, where the 57 is really aggressive. The V7X is a little bit tamed. It almost has a kind of a V shape, which is very good if that's the sound that you want. But for some applications, the forwardness of the 57 can be beneficial. Overall, I think that is a very good sounding mic. Maybe if you just had to use one mic, it could be a little bit more versatile because if you wanted a more brilliant sound, you could just move it a little bit towards the center and get away with it, but still having a little bit of a smoother tone. While with the SM57, you really need to place it correctly, otherwise it's gonna be very harsh. In this sense, I think the V7X is a little bit more forgiving, but in general, it's just a different frequency response. And now on with the snare. For this test, I used my drum set that is in the other room. It's a very old drum set, not well in tune. I just use it for practice. I don't really record it, but just to have an idea of what the behavior is on a snare drum, I did a little test. So I just put one mic, play some things, and then swap the mic. The sound of the snare by itself is not really very good, but for the purpose of demonstrating how this mic sounds, it's good enough. So one thing that I was also trying to test out is the rejection from the different polar patterns of the microphones. I just placed the mic on the snare and then I played some fills and some grooves to try and see if there is a very noticeable difference between the two polar patterns. So in the snare, When it comes to the frequency response, I think we can observe the same behaviors as with the guitars, where the SE Electronics has a much more present low end and a little bit of a smoother high end, which is to be expected, of course. But when I tried to figure out how the two mics rejected other instruments, hello guys, so I was editing the video and I actually noticed that I said something a little bit incorrect. So basically I was saying that based on the test that I did, I was expecting a bigger difference in terms of rejection from the other instruments of the drum, from the cymbals and in particular the hi-hat. So I was a little bit surprised because I expected more, but actually listening back and matching the volumes of the actual snare, there is a very noticeable difference from the V7X and the SM57. That being that the V7X is much better at rejection. That is of course because it is a super cardioid microphone, but I think it is also because of its frequency response, in particular with the cymbals, because it has a much smoother, less aggressive high end and high mid. So the high end actually helps to tame a little bit the higher frequencies of the cymbals, and therefore they are less present in the snare track. I think it is a combination of both these characteristics of the mic. So yeah, much better than the SM57 in this sense. So to conclude this little video, I think that the V7X is a very good mic and a very good alternative to the SM57, and in some cases it might be a little better. But at the end, I just think that these are just two tools to use accordingly to what you need in the moment and what your taste is. I kind of prefer the V7X a little better for certain applications, but I also see that the SM57 has its own sound print that can be very beneficial in certain applications. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments. And if you had the V7X, and tell me if you had a different experience than mine. Overall, I highly suggest this mic. I'm using it a lot lately, especially on drums. If you want to check out how this mic sounds in a real live recording, I'll leave a link in the description where you can check out a recent live recording I made and briefly mixed. The track is from Boro de Nova, a friend of mine's band, and I used this microphone on the snare drum. It turned out to be very good in my opinion, especially given the fact that I didn't spend a lot of time mixing this track and kind of polishing. This mic really gave me a big help to get a snare sound that is nice from the beginning. I think that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and again, let me know in the comments what you think, and see you next time.